I'm home.
Throws to the near side, and that's intercepted. Intercepted by Jack Jones, heading down the near sideline, and this will be a pick six for Jack Jones and a touchdown for Arizona State.
People here, when you think of Sun Devil football, you think of Sun Devil for life.
Here we go, 7 seconds. Berkovici. He's just going to air it out deep downfield, and no white shirts around. Oh, Jalen Strong! Caught for a touchdown! Jalen Strong makes the catch!
I went to Arizona State. Right. I'm a Sun Devil, man.
This is about the Valley. We need the Valley. If we get the Valley all in, the sky is the limit.
Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier podcast for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
And I'm Joe Healy with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, spring is heating up. Week 2 is in the books. A lot is going on so far, and a lot of former Sun Devils have their eye on the next level.
Yeah, it's something that's kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit because everybody is rightfully so fired up to just close the book on whatever it is you want to call what happened here on the football field the last couple of years. But there are obviously still some players remaining from that regime, the outgoing seniors or departed players that are preparing for pro careers, and ASU might have a shot at having some of those guys make their way into the NFL. So, that period of things, again, because everybody's so focused on the future and for good reason, is still something worth discussion.
Yeah, and that we're recording this on Monday the 27th, and earlier today ASU conducted their annual Pro Day. A bunch of former Sun Devils, even a couple of other players from nearby colleges, and an old familiar name, and Dylan Sterling Cole, most recently of Midwestern State, worked out for NFL scouts. 25 teams were in attendance, so I was out there covering that. So at the end of this episode, you'll hear from 4 of the big Sun Devils that are hoping to get their name called next month, or at least latch on to a pro team and get their shot. We're going to break down what happened out there on the Pro Day practice field, as well as in spring with Cole Topham of DevilsDigest.com, a great X's and O's guy, great insight into the whole draft process. But before we dive into that and our impressions of the developments through the first 2 weeks of spring practice, Joe, let's dive into some news. And like you said, winning is good. And the Sun Devil baseball team did a lot of that this weekend, has been doing a lot of that recently, winners of 10-11, but also, most importantly, swept the University of Arizona.
Yeah, and it started earlier in the week, with a midweek victory, a smashing of Grand Canyon, which at the time was a nationally ranked team, and ASU made short work of them, and that really set the tone for the rest of the week and weekend to come when ASU took, of course, 3 straight from the Wildcats, and that's something that I don't believe has been done, to my knowledge, I don't think since the 2019 season, that was a great year when ASU swept baseball, football, and men's basketball at that particular time. So I guess that might still be on the table if we're looking forward to the next fall, but that's a bridge we'll cross when we get to it. So, after that speed bump, a couple weeks ago that the baseball program faced after a really hot start, things are definitely back on track. ASU is in sole possession of first place in the Pac-12, though that's, only 2 weekends worth of work. It still is what it is, but when you're able to get a sweep and, Sunday's game really looked commanding out there. The bats came alive. The pitching did what they needed to do. You've got some players that are really showing their mettle and really emerging, some young stars here. And you're doing it without guys like Ethan Long, Will Rogers. You have some notable names that are out of the lineup. And ASU still made relatively short work out of the University of Arizona. Now, of course, there'll be one more game that they'll play against one another later in the season down in Tucson, as they typically or always do. The one conference series and then the midweek game that doesn't count toward conference standings. So ASU will have a little bit of work to do to claim the season sweep over the Cats, but big deal. Obviously, big deal for Willie Bloomquist because, that guy's very passionate at what he does, and he's passionate about how much he does not like that team from Tucson. Things did not go as desired in his first, year of taking some, having some chances against them. So to be 3-0 so far this year, that's a huge deal, not just for him, not just for that series, but don't look now, but ASU's really getting some momentum and starting to find some identity. And this season, could become something special if they keep on this level.
You mentioned some of the young kids that are kind of blossoming in the absence of some of the more notable and recognizable names in that Sun Devil lineup, and one of those has just been named the Pac-12 Player of the Week. New Contreras was just absolutely raking. This guy at times could not miss, had a 4-hit game during the series against the Wildcats. Over those 4 games against, you mentioned the in-state rivals, he hit .474 with 10 RBI, slugged .947, 2 bombs, 3 doubles, and a steal. Just as a guy that he's just, had some, I think, defensive issues a little bit early, but he's in that lineup with his defensive proficiency, but just kind of since that kind of those early season speed bumps has really kind of locked in, and just this past week has been on an absolute tear. Yeah,
I mean, it's unreal the kind of stuff that he's doing in his entire week. He had the go-ahead home run in the early games of the Arizona series, and then a monster day on Sunday. He was hit safely in his first 4 at-bats, including another home run. So, I mean, the guy's just absolutely on fire. But, back in that series, he saw, some swagger, some heat, some fun from the guys in this rivalry series, which
Timmy Manning getting after it a little
bit. Right? When you have guys that are, with such a transfer-heavy team, and this is, something you could say for a lot of stuff in college sports right now. You wonder if, rivalry games, rivalry series, if they're going to lose their juice a little bit because you don't have these players that are within programs for several years and really get what it's about. But you certainly didn't see that. As you mentioned, Timmy Manning, that was incredible. After he got a huge strikeout to end the inning when Arizona had some chance to put a dent in ASU's lead. He gave the dude a little bit of attitude, and I love to see that. Wyatt Crenshaw, he got in a little bit of trouble for a bat flip, a real grade A bat flip after he hit one out the park. And then I think Timmy Manning even brought a push broom to the mound for post game stuff.
Willie was not a huge fan of that.
So and that's one of those things where I'm wondering if he was this is just a guess. If Willie was just publicly saying he didn't like it, and then when everybody left, probably had a good chuckle at it. I just figure someone like Willie. I mean, he's a pro. He's and he's a classy guy in all ways with this sport. So I know that's a big thing. But when it comes to this rivalry, trust me, he gets it. So I'm sure at least somewhere deep down inside, he had to have enjoyed that because the fellas earned it by getting the sweep.
So ASU is now 16-8 on the season, winners of 10 out of the last 11, and perhaps most importantly, Joe, 5-1 in conference. Best conference record right now in the pack, so that's good for the Sun Devils. They have a next 4 will be on the road at UNLV on Tuesday, then a weekend series at Cal. So we'll see if they can continue that momentum into this road series before they come back home for a couple 4-game set next week against Seattle and Washington State. Now heading to the hardwood a little bit. The big news, of course, is something that we talked about at length last week. The future of the program and the leadership. Bobby Hurley is not going anywhere, folks. 2-year extension through the 2026 season. So, as we talked about in depth last week, the right man for the job, given kind of where this program is. The trajectory of this program after the COVID disruptions, for multi-year disruptions, getting back to the tournament, 23 wins, winning tournament game. It's good to see that Bobby Hurley's going to get a chance to continue to build what he's over his 8-year tenure, and is going to continue to build and hopefully get back to that annual tournament team status that he had the program in before the pandemic hit.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously the right move to retain him. It would have just been immeasurably foolish for ASU to, willingly not bring him back. It's good that he didn't choose to go elsewhere because that was generally considered to be on the table. That all said, I think that the extension, amount is valid and reasonable. I certainly can understand not giving him, 5, 6, 8, 20-year lifetime contract. You obviously got to give him something, but I think that time period is something that works because that gives him the opportunity to, potentially escalate the program a little bit further while, working under a contract that can help you recruit. You just can't be like year to year, obviously. So, yeah, I think that's the perfect thing, all things considered, because, even though there are some departures we'll talk about or potential ones, that he's got things moving in a positive direction, and he's built a great deal of credibility as far as a guy that can build a program, build a team off of transfer portals and other recruits. So he's got a lot in his corner.
All right, so as you mentioned, Joe, there's going to be some guys that potentially will not be a part of the future of Sun Devil basketball. Now, this is outside, of course, of the guys that have exhausted their eligibility, like Des Cambridge. DJ Horn, who was last year's leading scorer and number 2 this year to Cambridge, averaging 12.5 points per game. He has now entered the portal, and of course he was a transfer initially a couple of years ago before joining the program. Jemiah Neal, who really I thought turned it on at the end of this past season. Looked like to be like an integral piece of the program going forward, averaging 4.9 points per game and just under 3 rebounds. He has entered the portal, as well as former 5-star recruit, center Enoch Boachi. Now, he's a guy that, despite all that talent, just kind of fell behind. Warren Washington obviously did a great job down there as the team center last season. Duke Brennan, the true freshman, local kid, really kind of seemed to be the solidified all season long that backup to Washington, and really kind of was I thought solidified his spot in the future. But despite the accolades that he came in with as a 5-star, Enoch has not been able to really kind of crack that rotation, and now he is in the portal.
Yeah, I mean, just going through those one by one. And one thing, obviously, everyone needs to keep in mind, just because you put your name in the portal does not mean that you are 100% guaranteed to be leaving the school. Again, it still creates a probably more than reasonable chance that these players will, but as you saw with football, a lot of guys entered and came back. It's a very common thing, and I think will just get more and more and more common unless there's some sort of regulations that come through the chutes, that these players just want to give themselves the opportunity to review chances, which is what you do by entering the portal. If you don't do it by the deadlines, you don't have a shot. So I think that there's a little too much premature freaking out in some regards, and we'll see how it plays out. As you mentioned, Boyack, he just, he's a guy that didn't pan out. He was, a project in many respects, came with a high pedigree. There's not much that you can say when, a couple years have passed and the role diminishes. I do not think this is something that you can throw on Bobby Hurley. His shoulders are the shoulders of anyone on the staff or that has been on the staff as far as, failing to develop him. I think it's one of those cases where it was a high potential, maybe like high risk, high reward type of situation that simply didn't pan out. Jemiah Neal, I think, is like the poster child for the transfer portal, or someone that I mean, I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but at a relatively early point in the season, I was thinking this is the perfect example of somebody who's going to enter the transfer portal. And I don't say that from a position of disrespect. It's just the nature of the beast, in that he's someone that wasn't a starter here. He showed a great deal of potential, great deal of flash, multiple games, scoring double digits, being an ignition switch off the bench, really taking command in a lot of cases. So basically an audition tape for him to go to, some solid mid-major or some program that's maybe a little bit of a step down where he can be a starter and, he can do a lot of things there. I would be surprised, just in my personal opinion, if he were to, take a step up and learn from a guy like Jalen Graham, who went to Arkansas and didn't do crap this past year. He might have got a decent NIL payday, but the guy was a non-factor on that team, which was a very good team. So Neal, that one made sense. DJ Horn, another one. Like I said, ASU is just a program that's in a position, and there are going to be several of them, or are several of them, where you have those bench guys like a Jemiah Neal who shows some flash, he's a transfer portal candidate. You have a guy like a DJ Horn who, isn't going to go play in the NBA, but he's a very good college player to where maybe he can step up to a higher caliber program and get a payday and play on a bigger stage. That's just a possibility there. Luther Muhammad, by all accounts, it sounds like ASU is just not terrible. He's got to go through a waiver. We've seen that said by a lot of people in the know. He technically doesn't have an extra year as it stands right now to play, but he's going to apply for a waiver that it just sounds like ASU is not highly confident that he'll be able to get, and I think that he's just going to find a school that might have a spot for him that can roll the dice with that. So we'll see if he's even going to play. All the best for him. Again, so there are different tiers of what's going on, and it's just something that if anyone is freaking out about it, number one, don't. Just don't. Number two, wait for two things to happen. The first is see if any of these players withdraw their names from the portal. That's perfectly, that's a possibility. We saw that with, BJ Green and others from football. And number two, wait to see what happens as far as how ASU puts together their roster, even if every single one of those players leaves. Because, again, Bobby Hurley has done a tremendous job in the transfer portal the last 2 years. And keep this part in mind. That was done after two pretty crappy seasons. So if ASU was able to, and Bobby Hurley was able to go get Des Cambridge and Warren Washington the year before, Marion Jackson, DJ Horn, they got these guys after disappointing seasons the year before. ASU made the tournament, made a little noise, was on the radar in some decent spots this year. So you figure that's going to help them. I have ultimate confidence in Hurley's ability to hit the transfer portal. We've seen some things that, Frankie Collins tweeting about being a recruiter and that sort of thing. So let it play out. I'm confident that the roster will be as good, if not better, next year than it was last year, because between the incoming high school recruits and Hurley's reputation in the transfer portal, there's reason to believe that.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what he's able to do. A lot of programs, really, on an annual basis across the sport, just kind of transforming themselves and reloading and replenishing out of necessity, and a lot of times through the transfer portal. So we'll see if any of those guys decide to come back. Neal and Horn, have been pretty decent contributors, but we'll see. We should mention that Devin Cambridge, he does have eligibility, and he is coming back. He announced that he is going to be back in Tempe. He was a guy who started in that starting lineup for the Sun Devils, playing just under 27 minutes a game, averaging 9.8 points, 5.4 rebounds per game. So it's a nice piece there that will be coming back into the mix, along with guys like Frankie Collins, Austin Nunez as well. So there's some good core pieces that Hurley has in place that he will be able to kind of supplement in the coming weeks. And before we dive into some spring football impressions, have to give a shout out to the men's swim and dive team for a program best number 2 finish in the entire country. They put on a great show. Obviously, they fell just a little bit short against a national powerhouse in Cal, but just were they're winning all kinds of events and led by the French phenom himself, Léon Marchand, who just was named the CSCAA Men's Swimmer of the Year for the second straight season. He won the NCAA championship in the 200 individual medley, the 200 breaststroke, and the 400-meter individual medley, setting new NCAA records in each event. That's not bad, winning a national title and setting NCAA records each time you do so. His 5 career NCAA titles are the most in Sun Devil team history. And again, he's only been doing this 2 years, folks. So it's tremendous work done by the men's swim and dive team.
Yeah, you got to give so much credit to Bob Bowman and what's being done with this program. And I think, you lump that in with wrestling, which has had, both these programs, if I'm not mistaken, have had multiple top 10 finishes. And they're, right now, obviously, men's swimming finished 2nd, wrestling finished 7th. Wrestling had back-to-back top 4 seasons. Why am I lumping them together? You all probably know. What was it? Just about 15 years ago, there was a dark time for Sun Devil athletics that lasted about a week or two, where both those programs were cut. So there was going to be a reality where ASU did not have a men's swim program or a men's wrestling program. They happened at just about the same time. Obviously, they got funded in short order, didn't miss any time as far as, seasons of competition. But for those of us who've been Sun Devil fans and followers of Sun Devil athletics for, more than a decade or so, remember that time period. And around then, it was happening because they weren't nearly as successful as they are now. So to see things in the shape that they are with those two programs, which, right now, at least as far as the men's programs are concerned, I don't know if there are any programs that are competing at a consistently high level as well as those two are right now. So, again, Bob Bowman, all the credit in the world. My guy Zeke Jones, all the credit in the world, taking things that, really not all that long ago seemed like they were going to be, erased from the existence of Arizona State, turning them into nationally elite powers. That's a big deal.
All right, so before we talk to Cole Topham of DevilsDigest.com, let's review the week that was for the Sun Devil football team during spring practice. This encompassed practices number 4, 5, and 6. The 6 was on this past Saturday, was their first scrimmage of the spring. Now, coming off of the end of last week in practice 3, when they were able to go full pads, when the physicality really kind of ramped up, that really carried over and was the major, I think, through line throughout all 3 of these practices. Going back to last Tuesday in practice 4, just the intensity and the physicality really kind of, and a lot of times boiled over. There were some chippy moments. Cam Scadaboo continues to be a standout throughout spring ball, and his physicality, his DeMario Richard-esque running style really was on display, and as well as the other running backs as well, Tevin White and DeCarlos Brooks in particular. The running backs did really well in the inside run segments, but Brian Ward in this defense, it's not going to be that passive vanilla stuff that we saw a season ago. He has been very creative in bringing his pressures and blitzes from all angles, all levels. It's been really interesting to see them mix those things up. The edges, have done really well, especially this past week. We'll get to talking that on Saturday. In the main event session, which of course have become the highlights of practice, kind of parlaying off of the physicality and the intensity and the chippiness. There was, in this case, it wasn't just one-on-one situations. It was lining up the offense and defense in short yardage situations with the twist of letting the offense and the defense know exactly what play and scheme the other one was going to face. So with that knowledge, the offense actually won that segment with picking up some first downs. On Thursday in practice 5, full pads, extremely physical. The defense really kind of got their revenge and really dominated a team session that was focused on third down conversions. The pass rush continued to be on point. Xavier Guillory had just had, his name is being mentioned all the time because he's making huge plays day in, day out. I think on Thursday was really kind of put his run after the catch ability on display. Trenton Bourguet continues to look really good. We'll talk about the quarterback rankings here in a moment. Really cool main event session there. Anthony Cooper and Isaiah Glass were 2 guys that really kind of got into it with the physicality in a team session. So they were kind of spotlighted in the main event session, in which Dillingham had a few matchups of guys try to kick field goals. Anthony Cooper Charlie Brown had better success, I would say, in terms of trying to kick a ball. So Isaiah Glass actually launched a rocket. Defensive tackles coach Vince Amy and tight ends coach Jason Mons both made their kicks in their matchup. Lee Fatanu went up against Clayton Smith, the edge, and Fatanu got the edge there. Dario Longhetto, the new kicker for ASU, the transfer from Cal, has been really good all spring long, and he had a particularly strong Thursday session as well. And this past scrimmage on Saturday at Sun Devil Stadium, the defense won the day. Bourguet got the first 2 drives at the quarterback spot, and he threw a nice lofted touchdown to Troy O'Meary on a fade. Drew Pine had the next 2 series, and he, I think, has been continuing to be a little up and down, his accuracy, and he just seems to be kind of a half beat late in terms of just processing and some of his decision making. He was able to generate some scoring drives, but Bourguet, I thought, was the most polished passer of the day. The big star on offense was Jalen Conyers, 2 highlight reel catches, a one-hander in the end zone, and another one where he took and had a catch and run ran through some tackles when things went to live full tackle situations. Bennett Meredith kind of rebounded nicely after having a kind of a lofted interception on his first drive, led a touchdown drive in which he actually took it the distance, showing off his mobility. But the back half of the scrimmage was, I thought, really defined by the pass rush and just getting after Clayton Smith, making his name known. Garen Stansberry has been really good. He's getting better and better, but BJ Green is a damn menace. He has really taken up a level from last year. He's kicking out. He's now playing end and edge far more often, but still has that versatility to play inside as well. But, it's just he was in Jaden Rashada's face the last couple of drives, making his life miserable. And there might have been some deer in the headlights moments from Rashada just because BJ Green was really getting after it and getting in the backfield really quick. So it's good to see from a defensive standpoint. And overall, the defense won that scrimmage and capped off a pretty successful week. Overall, I thought that was skewed more towards the defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's every day you're just hearing new things, positive things that are a breath of fresh air type situation, even if it's something, again, you're talking like field goal competitions. You see some of these videos that are coming out just with random stuff we talked about last time out. Again, some of this stuff that in and of itself, those little items, may not make a ton of difference on the field, but it's bonding type of stuff. It's little forms of competition within the team. It's something to, add a little bit of like a work hard, play hard type of thing. It's just a unique environment. It's, such a drastic difference from before. And, like I've said many times, it's just a clear indicator of turning the page away from just the stress and the dark clouds and just the dismal nature of, what went on last year and the year before, and shifting gears in a way that seems faster and quicker and more effective, at least as of right now, than anybody could have imagined.
All right, so this is how I see the quarterback race shaping up. Now, granted, it's only 6 sessions in. There's still 9 more to go in spring, and, of course, a lot of stuff going on in the summer and fall. But I think Trenton Bourguet has been the most polished and impressive guy. His football IQ, obviously, is off the charts, but he's just been very decisive, accurate in his throws, and I think the one thing that's really jumped out is he's throwing a lot of guys open, throwing to good spots, throwing with with good anticipation, and the chemistry that he has, especially with guys like Jalen Conyers, Elijah Badger, that he has that rapport with, is really starting to show. And number 2, I think Bennett Meredith has really taken some big steps forward. Now, of course, there have been some mistakes, and you mentioned that he was picked off in the scrimmage on Saturday, but overall, I thought his arm looks good. He's making some good throws, showing off some good mobility. So I at this point, I have him ahead of Drew Pine, which might surprise some people. But again, I just think that Drew Pine's thinking too much. You're caught up in his head a little bit. Perhaps it's just learning the new scheme, the new offense, as well as just kind of a new situation. There's been times where there's kind of, under pressure, making some throws. I will say that he has had some good tosses here and there, showing off some good mobility, at least surprised me a little bit at times. But I think that, just in terms of just taking sacks or being kind of one read and run that we've seen from kind of the Manny Wilkins era, there's been some of that's been noticeable on a repeated basis. Number 4 for me, Jacob Conover, just has some ground to make up. He's a guy doesn't have a whole lot of college experience, so we'll see what he's able to do. And then Jaden Rashada they're purposely bringing this guy along. So there's a lot of him watching other quarterbacks in practice. Now, when he has gotten in there, shown off a real strong arm, and I think that, you see flashes of that potential, but I think by design, they're just bringing him along slowly. So I don't know necessarily rank him 5th, but just kind of almost in a kind of a not applicable category, just kind of, because they're intentionally kind of bringing him in. But I think to me so far, Trenton Bourguet has been the guy that if you're watching in terms of just how the offense operates, his throws, his command of the offense, I think right now he's at the top of the heap.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily a surprise, at least in my estimation. Obviously, he's been around here. Now, of course, you've got a largely new staff with the exception of just one coach, but there's just a familiar sense for him just around these parts and with the players that are returning. And, with a guy like Sean Aguano, again, even though that's not his position coach or his coordinator, there's some level of comfort, with the staff that others can't match necessarily, or at least ones like a Pine or Rashada who are first years in their program, Conover for that matter as well. So again, that does not surprised me whatsoever, especially with what he showed on the field last year, in addition to his well-earned reputation of a high IQ student of the game. So you figured if there's someone that was going to catch on quickly, it makes sense for it to be him. That's obviously not a guarantee that he's going to be QB1 to start or for the full season, because we've seen a lot of things happen where a guy will look like the guy in the early part or for all of spring camp, and then things shift around as the preseason goes on. But again, for that to be the case right now, not a surprise. That's a good thing. I'm perfectly comfortable with him continuing to be starting quarterback here if he's the best man to win the job. There's going to be a ton of competition all the way throughout until that first game. So this is just the start.
All right, so before we talk to Cole Topham, here are some guys that I thought really raised their stock this week. Now, this is not necessarily who's had the best overall spring so far, just in terms of this particular week 2, who I thought really kind of raised their stock the most. And I'm going to start with just 3 defensive end / edge players, because this has been a week that the pass rush really got going. I thought all of them have been having great success. No more than anybody, but BJ Green, mentioned him earlier, just continuing to just kind of take it up another level. ASU is probably very glad that he decided to come back out of the portal. Garen Stansbury has also looked really good. Now, he, of course, was a guy that had kind of all the physical tools, a great frame the last couple of years, but now he's starting to kind of put things together, and we're seeing that manifest in some good plays on the field. True freshman edge Ashley Williams has also had some really good moments, and I think it's really kind of solidifying his place in kind of the pecking order in terms of the defensive end spots. And moving on the interior, Tristan Monday has been really good on the defensive tackle. We talked about how the interior D-line has been kind of and probably remains a big concern overall relative to other positions, but he's had some good plays, had a nice play, especially for a sack in the Saturday scrimmage. And then on the offensive side, 2 other guys that are worth mentioning. Wide receiver Troy O'Meary is continuing to, now that he's a little bit healthier, he had a little slow start to spring, is really kind of bouncing back and putting together some really good showings there, using that big size of his and physicality. Had couple of kind of Randy Moss type sideline catches, and then of course had that fade touchdown on Saturday. And running back to Carlos Brooks has been really good, and it seems like he's been making a lot of plays this week, both on the ground and as a pass catcher. This is an offense that likes to get the backs involved in the passing game, so he has put on some really impressive showings throughout the week. So I think he's kind of making his name known and making his mark in a pretty talented and crowded backfield. Joining us now and tying Herm Edwards on the all-time Speak of the Devils guest list at the same time is Cole Topham of DevilsDigest.com. You know him as the X's and O's maestro, writing all the great content over there. We're going to talk a little spring ball and pro day as well. So, Cole, thanks for making the time. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm great. I knew I was getting up there on the leaderboard. So next to a great name like Herm and on the Speak of the Devil podcast leaderboard. And yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll try and get a few more in here before I graduate.
So focusing first on spring ball, of course, you've had the opportunity to see quite a few practices under head coach Kenny Dillingham. What are your early impressions of how he operates, and how does this compare and contrast to what you've seen from, the previous regime of Iguano as interim coach, Herm Edwards before that? What stands out to you just about how Kenny Dillingham runs his team through these practices?
Yeah, I think everyone's mentioned like the pace of practice, and it really does make a difference. I think the pace, what it does is it increases the intensity, right? And the players that, aren't operating at that pace are going to fall behind. And it basically makes everyone rise to the occasion of practice, and that this is the new reality and this is how it's going to be. And you better be able to think fast on your feet and know the playbook down pat, because this program isn't going to be, operating like the old regime. It's new, it's full of youth and energy, and I think Kenny Dillingham brings that every single day along with all of his other assistants. And so I think what that has led to, for the most part, is we've seen the players just be more engaged with everything that they're doing, from whether it's freshman newcomers to players that have been on the roster for 3 or 4 years, the level of competitiveness and just engagement with what the players are doing every single day at practice has really been tremendous and definitely unparalleled to anything that I've seen covering the team the last 4 years.
All right, so obviously the big headline position battle this spring and probably going to be all summer and into fall camp a little bit, quarterback. What is your analysis, and how do you see this race shaping up through the early spring, through these first 2 weeks?
We really didn't get to see Trenton Bourguet through the first week because he was still recovering from some off-season surgery. But I thought, once he got out there, started practicing with the 11s, got situated, it was pretty clear that he grasped some of the basic installs that Kenny Gillingham has been doing the past 2 weeks, and I don't think he's missed a beat. We know Trenton is going to come in prepared and know the playbook well, and just he has tremendous processing skills and touch, and I think we saw that in the scrimmage, and we've seen that in the 2 other practices that he's thrown at. So I really do think at the moment it's Trenton Bourguet, like his job to lose. Like he has the locker room chemistry already. He knows some of the guys that he's throwing to, so that's definitely a hurdle that he is familiar with, that the other quarterbacks will have to get adjusted to. I thought Drew Pine, he's had some good throws and good moments where he's been able to showcase his mobility, kind of his presence in the pocket, but he does seem to be getting integrated in the offense a little bit slower. I haven't really seen too many wow moments from him of just anticipation and accuracy. And I think he is getting a little bit still adjusting to, kind of the playmakers on the roster and throwing to a whole new group of receivers. I do think that Bennett Meredith has been impressive. And, in Meredith's defense, we didn't really get to see him all too much under the Herm era. He barely got any reps in 11-on-11. It was mostly just starters, and obviously Meredith was never going to touch that group. With Trenton Bourguet and Emory Jones kind of duking it out for the starting role. So that's been a nice, pleasant surprise. And then I think Jaden Rashada is right where he needs to be. He just got here, so he's still settling into the college lifestyle and everything. But it's pretty clear, like the fundamentals of a quarterback with a strong arm and just the poise that he carries himself with are there. They're there to build off of, and we've already seen some tremendous zip on the ball where the ball is getting to these receivers much faster than the other quarterbacks. So that's kind of like your all-encompassing analysis of the quarterback room. But in summary, I think Trenton Bourguet was expected to look the best and is the best so far.
Last year, the Sun Devil pass rush was nothing short of awful, producing some of the worst statistics and disrupting the passer in program history. But Brian Ward's scheme so far is anything but the passive that we saw a year ago. What have you seen from the defense in that regard so far? Obviously, in the media, we can't necessarily report on all the details of the X's and O's, but in a general sense, what have you seen from the defense, and who are some of the standouts that you've seen making repeated plays in the backfield?
Yeah, I think the first week Brian Ward was kind of installing the base level of his scheme and making sure alignments were correct. And this second week, we really got to see kind of the elements that make it really special. And just one of those elements is presenting different, crowded looks at the line of scrimmage to kind of make the offensive line think more about where the pressure is coming from. You've got multiple players that could have the option to rush or could drop back or, could hawk the middle of the field. And so basically the offensive line has looked a touch slower than the defensive line for that reason, because, for the first time, pressure could seemingly be coming from anywhere. And when that, message hits the quarterback that, hey, pressure could be coming from anywhere, then you start to simulate pressure. You could still rush 4 and drop, both the linebackers into coverage, but it may seem like, ASU is rushing 5 or 6 guys. And so I think that's really what has allowed the defense to stand out as they continue to get familiar with Brian Ward's scheme. I know BJ Green, he already looks really comfortable, and his speed and just low center of gravity seems like a perfect match at the edge position in Ward's scheme. Garen Stansbury's been able to showcase some good moments of just his phenomenal mixture of length and athleticism and bend for his size of 6'6". And then I think Tristan Monday, too, one of the newcomers at one of the defensive tackle positions. He had a great day in the scrimmage, batting down a ball and getting 2 sacks. And I think, the defensive line is going to be in a lot better shape than it was last season, just simply because Ward will facilitate those one-on-one matchups, and it will just lead to more production, and it already has in the spring.
All right, so we're 2 weeks through spring, 6 practices down, 9 to go. Who are just some of the guys that you think have at least raised their stock over that period, at least compared to kind of your expectations heading in?
I definitely think Melquan Stovall, the Colorado State transfer, he's been really impressive, and he's going to challenge Gio Sanders in the slot role. And honestly, having just 2 players in the slot that can rotate and not see any drop off in production when one is in and the other isn't, it's going to be great. But Stovall, he's made some great catches out of frame, showcased some tremendous ball tracking ability over his shoulder. He's been able to win his one-on-one matchups when in the arena style Kenny Dillingham special events. So I think he's been impressive on offense for me. And then defense, for sure, it's got to be Travion Brown, who followed Brian Ward over from Washington State. He knows this defense already. He's comfortable in it. He's teaching the other players it, and he definitely looks the part as a physical specimen. So, obviously replacing the linebacker production from last season with Merlin Robertson and Kyle Soelle, 2 accomplished veterans who, competed at the Pro Day earlier today. That's going to be important to make sure that the second level defense is, shored up. So Travion Brown and then whoever ends up playing the will position alongside him, I think ASU is going to be in a good spot at linebacker.
So you've mentioned a few of the newcomers so far, the 2 that you just talked about, some of the quarterbacks. Obviously, there are a lot of newcomers on campus. This is what a lot of fans want to hear about, see how they're doing. In addition to the ones that you've already discussed, which other newcomers on either side of the ball is catching your eye so far?
Ashley Williams, for sure. He was a 4-star that Kenny Dillingham managed to nab at the deadline, and he looks the part. He's from Zachary, Louisiana. He's got this speed rush style that gets on the offensive line, offensive tackle's toes really quick. He's able to use his length, and then he's got this spin move that is already, pretty refined, and he's been able to catch some veterans on the roster by surprise. So he's seeing time with the first group, and then I don't expect that to change at all, because he's been able to take advantage of it and showcase some pretty impressive moments already within this first 2 weeks with the football team. So, I'd say Ashley Williams on defense is a name to keep an eye out for those attending the spring game in April.
All right, so switching gears now to Pro Day and the upcoming NFL Draft. Now, obviously, during the Herm Edwards era, that the term pro model was thrown around a lot in terms of just going to be a program with a lot of NFL experience in the building and focused on developing players and NFL draft prospects. This year, only one Sun Devil was invited to the Combine, and we don't know how many will get drafted ultimately in April. What do you think the results that we've seen in recent years of ASU developing these NFL prospects, kind of given that over the last half decade under the pro model?
Yeah, I think it's a mixed bag, because last year there was a pretty healthy sampling with Chase Lucas and Jack Jones and Rashad White. Of players that Arizona State could attach their name to. I really feel like they're shifting away from the pro model and relying less on the experience of, hey, these guys coached in the NFL and they know what it takes to kind of personnel and staff that will relate better to these kids, and then therefore will unlock the areas where they know how to push these kids and really allow them to reach their limits as players and as prospects. So I think that's probably the main differences between the two staffs that I see. And I think that Arizona State had some generous momentum with the pro model before all the recruiting allegations came out. And then they had to put some position coaches that had tremendous relationships with some of the players and recruits that they were going after. And obviously the momentum dissipated because of that. And so I think we're in this transition period between the pro model and then the Kenny Dillingham model, which has yet to, I guess, to activate the Valley model, if you will, is the catchy name for it. So yeah, we'll see what this looks like, but I could definitely see the Kenny Dillingham era kind of recapturing the magic and allure that the pro model had when it was at its height.
So as Brad mentioned, there was one invite from ASU to the NFL Scouting Combine. However, the player who it was not was the one who was really getting a lot of headlines, not only for the football season last year for what he did at ASU, but what he did at Pro Day today as well. Of course, that's X Valladay. Why do you think he didn't get an invitation to the Scouting Combine, and what sort of outlook do you have for him as a pro prospect, at least in part based on what he did today?
To be honest, I'm not really sure why he didn't get a combine invite, because he has the production, over his time at Wyoming and Arizona State, where he's, 3 1,000-yard seasons, and then he was second in the Pac-12 in rushing touchdowns and 18 total touchdowns last season. It was really puzzling to not see him get an invite, and the only explanation I have for it is these running back classes are just getting deeper, and especially when you consider all the extra players that return to college football with COVID eligibility that are now entering the draft when they would have entered the draft a season or two ago. That's really the only explanation I have, and maybe it's because he's not as versatile as some of the other backs. And so they wanted someone, that would, because, the combine is now a media spectacle. So, if a running back can't, run routes out of the backfield and catch passes, then it's not going to be good TV. And, Valladay has shown that he could do that, but maybe not to the level that we've seen, Rachaad White do in recent years. But I do know that Valladay has spent a lot of the offseason, working on his pass catching skills. And that was a primary focus for him at the Shrine Bowl earlier this offseason. And he basically did every route in the book, lining up with the quarterback in the backfield and then running, a plethora of routes out of the backfield. So I think he's really got a fire in him to, prove those that say that he can't run routes as well as some of the other running back prospects wrong. But there's a lot to like about X, mainly the production, the yards per carry, and just his ability to quickly transition from system to system, from Wyoming to Arizona State, and immediately rise to the occasion. At the Pac-12 level, he's a hard runner, and I felt like whenever Arizona State needed him to shoulder a workload, he didn't buckle under it. So those are several reasons why I think Xavier Valladay is being slept on as a prospect, and why he shouldn't be.
Merlin Robertson had an explosive freshman season, but never really seemed to kind of reach that level again or generate that level of buzz. Obviously never a bad player, and he's always kind of, pretty good to solid throughout the remainder of his career. What did you see from him in today's pro day, and what kind of NFL prospect do you think he is? Yeah,
I mean, I really saw the same Merlin, that I saw at practice, really. Just a player that is a veteran of the program and came in, worked hard, and did his job. And, he basically looked like the same player that I watched, out on the practice fields the past 2 years. I really don't know where Merlin's ceiling is as a prospect, because his freshman year was before I even attended Arizona State, and that was his most productive year, obviously. And as much as I've watched him, I haven't really seen him as a true pass rusher like he was used in 2018. And I think it really is going to take a team to believe that they can unlock some of those, some of that magic that he previously showcased. And I do think that, both Kyle Soelle and Merlin Robertson were a victim of just the scheme and how they were used. They were used as coverage drop-back linebackers. They were tasked with manning the hook curl zones, reading quarterbacks' eyes, making opportunity interceptions and plays on the ball over the middle. And to their credit, they were quite good at it. But as a deficit, they couldn't rush the passer as much. So, it's basically going to the film and the talent are there from his freshman season. It's just going to take the right mixture of an NFL team that believes in Merlin Robertson, that he can become more than just the linebacker that he has been the past 3 years.
Which Sun Devils did you think raised their stock the most, or at least put some made some positive impressions on the NFL scouts during today's workouts?
I think all of them. The main four: Nesta Jade Silvera, Soelle, Robertson, and X Valladay. They didn't leave anything at their pro day that they should be unhappy with, in my opinion. And a nice surprise was Charles Hall, who I felt like we couldn't see as much this season because of the scheme, because the offense took a while to really get clicking, and then his role was kind of phased out toward the beginning of the season as that flanker receiver, vertical stretch, and we definitely saw that at the pro day when we timed him unofficially, like way unofficially, from our spot in the media corner at a 4.37, which would have been the fastest time on the day. So it's been no secret that Charles Hall has speed for days, and he has plenty of tape from his previous stop, and I wish him the best, and see if he can intrigue some NFL teams that were here today.
Now, ultimately, when the draft gets going here next month, how many of the Devils do you think are real draftable prospects and have a real decent chance to hear their name called?
Yeah, I think the three that I have penciled in are Nesta Jade Silvera, X Valladay, and Kyle Soelle. Mostly just because it's not a great linebacker class at the top, and so once you start getting into later rounds, you start looking for players that can help your locker room and help align with the vision that you're trying to build from a culture perspective. And I think Kyle brings a lot of those traits as the team captain, as someone that's that was the bedrock of Arizona State this year. Someone who has a lot of pride in what he does and where he's come from. You could say the same thing for Nesta Jade Silvera. He's a tone setter. He was like that at Senior Bowl practices. He was like that at Arizona State practice from day one. He was one of the most vocal players on the field, competitive, and. Yeah, he's had to adjust to a lot of coaching changes in his life that I think being able to learn fast under a new staff is a trait that a lot of NFL scouts would covet. And then of course Xavier Valladay, we talked about him just with his production and what he's done and how versatile he could be. I think there's a lot of untapped potential in Valladay as a receiver. As someone out of the backfield that I think could be intriguing for NFL teams. So there's upside with all three of those guys. And, if there's a position of need that an NFL team wants to fill with their name on it, then I think there's a good chance that they could hear their name called.
As always, Cole, thanks so much for sharing your time, your expertise into the Sun Devil program and their pro prospects. Encourage all our folks, if they're not already, to give you a follow on Twitter at Ham Analysis, and I look forward to your next appearance, which will, I believe, get you in the double-digit club.
Oh, hell yeah. Thanks, guys.
So after ASU wrapped up their pro day workouts, we had a chance to talk to the future pros and bringing you those conversations. Now starting with defensive tackle Nesta Jade Silvera.
What are you trying to achieve over here in pro day? Just pro day, really. The biggest thing was just another opportunity to be around the guys that you see working, man. These guys are guys that helped me get to everywhere I got, the combine, Senior Bowl. It's the guys out here that, helped me get there. And I just wanted one last go around with these guys. One last time on this field, in this practice facility, man. Just one last time with the guys. That was the biggest thing that I wanted to do.
What kind of feedback have you been hearing from the NFL scouts?
Feedback pretty good, man. I can't lie to you. We'll just see where the cards fall in a month.
Is there anything that you really wanted to do from the combine till now?
Nah, man. I stood on a lot of my combine numbers. A lot of the stuff I did there, I stood on it. So it wasn't really anything I necessarily wanted to do better here. Obviously, position work. Wanted to show what I can do, show that I can move, show I'm very agile. You know, I'm like a linebacker playing 3 tech, so that's the thing I wanted to show. Yeah.
What's sort of the feedback like, the conversations you're having with people at the next level?
Next level, man, they see me as I can play anywhere on the line of scrimmage, from a 0 to a 4 to a 5. So that's one of the specific traits that I feel like I have. A lot of the feedback has been very positive, you know. Just stuff like that, man. I'm just trying to just see where the cards fall, see where I go, because a lot of these dudes in this class, they've had the luxury of having the same head coach, having the luxury of having the same D-line coach. I've been in college 5 years, had 4 different D-line coaches, 4 different head coaches, and 4 different DCs. So I didn't have the luxury to be comfortable like a lot of these guys, but yet I always produce, I always come through and do what I do.
As you look back at your time at ASU, what memories are you taking with you?
I mean, beating Washington. First thing come to mind, top 10 team in the country, came to our house, thought they was gonna beat our ass, and we punched them in their shit. So, oof. Yeah, we did what we had to do as a team, as a unit. You know, that was Guano's first win. You know, Coach Sean is a dude I love so much here. Helped me really just get all them leadership qualities out of me. Just helped me become a full player when he stepped in and took that head coaching job. So hat off and kudos to him. Man, Coach Rob, I'll never forget Coach Rob, man. You know, that's my favorite coach. You see how many goddamn coaches that I had. That's probably my favorite one, Coach Rob, man. I love that dude, and I'm so appreciative of him because everything he told me was going to happen has happened and come to fruition. So just love that dude for sure.
Are you excited about this Dillingham era and just what, you know, is the future of this program?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm excited to see this program excel. This is a program that got me everything I wanted. So, you know, I'm a Sun Devil for life, you know. Thank him for coming here and, you know, taking a chance on this program. I can't wait to see what the future holds for it.
Who are some of those guys in that defensive line room that are kind of up and coming that you think are under the radar?
Coop, man, ballhead Coop. Anthony Cooper, man, Coop for sure. You know, they got Robbie, man, Robbie. You guys see him in that 4 running around doing his thing. So, you know, he got that number, so he got to take off. Hopefully that'll be the new D-line legacy number or something like that. But, man, there's plenty of dudes in that room that have so much ability, and everybody has their own unique traits that they got in that room. So it'll be a real special room coming this season.
Robbie asked you if you were cool with that?
Hell yeah, he had to ask me. You know, but yeah, that's my little brother, man. I love that dude. Treat him just like a little brother, and I can't wait to see what he does because that's a man amongst boys. If y'all seen him in practice.
What do the next few weeks look like for you? You got team visits lined up?
Couple visits ready to get in motion. Couple meetings after this when we finish up here. But yeah, just ready to go back home, train some more for the next month, and see where I land.
You mentioned some of the things you're gonna miss. How nice is it to have the guys here juicing each other up as you're trying to accomplish something together?
You know, dudes like Kyle, dudes like Merlin, dudes like TJ, dudes like Vez, dudes like X. Those are guys that, you know, we push each other. And, you know, even though we had a 3-9 season, the worst record in school history, these are guys that we weren't going out there to lose. We're going to war every single week because we had an ultimate goal in our minds that we all knew what we want to do. We want to play at the next level. So all these seniors, Tamarcus Davis, KB, all these guys, we knew what we were working for all season. Even though it didn't go the way we'd like, it was a brotherhood that, you know, I'll never forget and I hold dearly.
Last question.
What's been when you're in a interview with another team, what's you kind of just take us through what that's like and what you're trying to show?
A lot of this stuff, you know, just asking about how you are as a person, you know, how they can help you as a player. I'm sure you guys can imagine what they ask. Some funny questions, some not. But yeah, man, it's just regular, kind of like how y'all asking me stuff.
What's been the most off the beat?
Off the wall?
Yeah, off the wall.
Question?
Yeah.
Can I plead the fifth? I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. I'm going to plead the fifth. But yeah.
And here's linebacker Kyle Soelle.
I'm expected to get a combine invite. Didn't get that. Kind of put a little chip on my shoulder. You know, I still feel like I'm one of the best linebackers in this upcoming draft. I'm going to prove that today.
What did you really want to show specifically?
Explosiveness, you know, quick twitch. I don't think I have tight hips. I think I showed that today. And I'm an athlete overall. I think a lot of people question my athleticism, but I think we knocked those questions out the door today.
So what about the numbers that you put up or that you did kind of reflected that?
I would like to say everything. I think my 40 really opened some eyes. A lot of teams thought I was going to run a 4.7. I kind of laughed at that. No way. I would ever run a 4.7. I've never ran a 4.7, but obviously blew that out of the water today. 5.10.5, I thought I moved fluid, L drill, and I think honestly my position drills I think showed, quick twitch.
Is this nerve-wracking being out here and just having this one shot?
I don't think so. When preparation, and hard work come together, you get to put on a show like that. You get to have utmost confidence. And at the end of the day, it's God's plan. Whatever happens, happens. I get to say I give my all, and wherever the chips fall, it's where they fall.
So what do your next few weeks look like leading up to the draft?
They're getting a little busy. I think a lot of flights in April. So I'm excited for the end of April and come draft day.
What was your training process like?
Yeah, I think I was on a podcast earlier this month, kind of talked about my daily schedule, from speed training in the morning to weights right after to position work after that, 6 days a week of that. Honestly, over the last 3 months and even before that, during the season, I really told myself I'm going to give it my all this year and, prove that, I can play at the next level and not just play but excel. But, I got to get on the team first and, prove myself.
What do you want to show scouts that you don't see on a stat sheet?
I know it's cliche to say, but leadership. I think I've always been a leader my whole life. Why? I couldn't tell you. It's just something that's happened. Maybe it's because I'm the oldest boy of 4, and I got to keep those kids in line. But that, and I'm just a teammate that wants to help the team win at the end of the day. Anything I can do to help a team win, that's my job.
You guys went through a lot this past season. What was it like getting together with some of these guys one more time and kind of juicing each other up?
Yeah, it was a great day. Great feeling. Just saw X make a catch. Just so happy to see. I thought everyone showed what they had today. I don't think anyone had a bad day. I think everyone excelled, and it just makes me proud. I think last season didn't really reflect the group of guys that we had, and it was unfortunate to see that. Obviously only 3 wins in the season, but I think the guys on that roster are a lot greater than that.
Do you think ASU is in good hands with Dillingham?
Absolutely. I think Coach Dilly's the guy. I see him, activate the Valley. I think that's what we need. Bringing the in-state kids home. I think that's what Arizona State needs, and I'm looking forward to seeing the future of this program.
What are your thoughts on Coach Mons joining the staff?
I said that also, earlier. It's about damn time, right? I mean, shoot, how many championships did it take to get him over here? But yeah, Coach Mons has always been my coach, one of the best coaches I've ever had. Man, we're blessed to have him wearing the maroon and gold. I think you guys see him on the recruiting trail. He's already getting it hot. He's going to be a great coach for the Sun Devils.
And your thoughts, too, on obviously Coach Dillingham retaining Coach Iguano, just everything you went through last year, too.
Yeah, Coach Iguano, talk about a tough hand to dealt. Good catch by BT right there. He got dealt a tough hand. I think he did his best. I got the utmost respect for him. That's another coach. I'll do anything for him, and so thankful to be able to be coached by him.
What kind of feedback are you getting from teams and during this process?
Sneaky athleticism, smooth. Like I said, we'll see come draft. I'm excited. It's gonna be a good month of April.
Next up, running back X Valladay.
I'm very satisfied with what I did. I did a lot of good things out there. I did things I expected to do. So. Good.
Was there more pressure because you were not invited to the combine to really show up today?
No, it wasn't pressure at all. I just, took all the things that that I didn't get at the time and just brought it here. I just wanted to make a big statement and thought I did that. A couple big chips on my shoulder, stacking like poker. So let's do it.
We didn't know you could jump like that. Were you impressed with your vertical?
I was very impressed. It wasn't a shocking, by any means, because. The last 3 months, you train to, do things and, set goals for yourself like that. So just being able just to, show my versatility, show my athleticism, and, just being able to do things just God-given ability.
Do you think you turn heads with scouts and maybe not realizing that you have that in you?
No, definitely. I think I got some notice, a lot more notice than, I feel like, that I should have gotten in the first place. But just being able just to come out here and, feel like I got snubbed off the combine, I didn't get that. So, I definitely turned a lot of heads there.
Do you think you you've always been kind of that under-the-radar player coming from Wyoming and then ASU and then getting snubbed from the
Always. I'm not surprised. I'd rather be, underrated than overrated. So just being able just to stay humble, keep putting in the work in, and I didn't make it yet. Even when draft day comes, you still didn't make it there. So just got to keep on working.
So what do the next few weeks up to draft day look like for you?
Just recovering, still doing some slight workouts, just staying on top of things, not getting too comfortable. So just being able just to get ready for whatever's next.
What role did Coach Iguana play in your further development since getting to ASU?
Just making me more just more veteran, just knowing things on the field as far as knowing type of things that can come at me defensively, different schemes schematically. So and definitely getting ready, for a moment like this, an NFL opportunity, to be able to showcase, what I've done, this whole season that just passed, and just being able just to know that I'm one of those elite guys that can take my talents to the next level.
Obviously wanting that combine invite, but being here with your boys, how much fun was it to at least do this with your guys?
Oh, it was a blessing, man. Like I said, I've been gone for the last 3 months, so just being able to see the guys that I went to war with this past year, seeing guys that got bigger, it felt like I was out here, it felt like a practice again. In some sort of way, and just being able just to come back and walk through the facility and stuff like that. So it was a blessing, it was an honor, that was going to be my brothers for life. So, I was very appreciative of, coming back here and putting on the show.
X, what do you want scouts to know about you, maybe as a person that you can't find on a stat sheet?
Definitely, I'm I'm not a normal athlete. I don't consider myself normal. I consider myself elite, best of the best, and they have yet to find out, what X Valladay has to offer. So, whatever they can do to dig in and, see that, that's up to them. And just being able just to, know that, whoever gets me is going to be, one hell of an option, and blessed to have you.
What have you heard from teams in terms of, what they see from you and your skill set?
They love what I see, I felt like it was things that they didn't know that I put an exclamation point on, as far as weight, size, speed, and stuff like that. So just being able to come out here and exceed those things is something that they definitely took notice, and I think they're going to take it back home.
And then what about the excitement with Dillingham? How good of hands is this program in with him?
Oh, I felt the energy when I first got back here. I've seen some different things on the internet at times. Just seeing like the different vibe he brings, and him activating the Valley, and doing a lot of more support. Not only for the football, but for like other programs, other athletic programs like baseball and stuff like that. So just being able to activate the Valley, get a lot of people acclimated with everybody coming together and supporting one another. I thought that was pretty awesome. So I feel like he's doing a really good job with that, and you see it with the the guys that's on the ASU team now. So just being able just to have everybody get behind them and support them and support the whole state of Arizona. I think he's doing a really good job.
Do you have a favorite memory at Arizona State that you're going to leave with?
Favorite memory? I'll probably say that, man, I still say that Washington game, in spite of everything we've been through this past year, having fans being so excited about, that win that we had, that was something that I definitely remember. That in senior day, although the result didn't come, it's always something, that you're going to take home, as a senior, being your last game, no matter what the outcome is. So just being able just to cherish everything, and having all the fans storm the field is something I won't forget. So it's pretty cool.
Last question. What do you feel about Tevin White, who could be the starting running back?
Tevin got some juice in him, and I think when he came up to me before everything happened today, just asking what he could do to separate himself from everybody else. I think I just told him, just be you, man. We have a lot of conversations off the field before I left, and I told him he's going to be great. He's going to be a great player. So the sky is not the limit for him. A lot of people can go above and beyond the sky, just depending on what you want to do. and Tevin knows that. So, he's just got to keep working, keep being himself, and he's going to see a lot of great success.
And finally, linebacker Merlin Robertson.
I feel like today went pretty good, especially with all the hard work we put in these past 3 months with Coach Joe. I feel like it paid off pretty well. So,
what is it about Coach Joe that his name's come up quite a few times? How did he prepare you guys?
Man, just the training that he had us go through was different. We didn't do usually when we were on the team. You're really just working on every little detail. So, man, huge shout out to Coach Joe, man, taking his time out to train us, man, and get us right for this opportunity today. So.
What did you want to come out and prove today in this pro day?
Really just that I can move. I can move pretty well. Really wanted to show my explosiveness throughout my drops and stuff like that in my hands. So, yeah.
You and Kyle have been through a lot together. What was it like getting to work out with him one more time?
Man, it was a blessing, man. It was an honor, man. I love that guy. So, I always have him in my corner. I'm always in his corner, man. It was just an honor to be with him, man, and, have this day together, because we have been here, for a long time, but we've been together, man, so it was a blessing.
What kind of feedback have you been hearing from scouts and teams throughout this process?
Really, man, just stay in shape, stay loose, man, stay flexible, and just keep my head in the playbook, my knowledge of the game, so, yeah.
As tough as last season was in 2022, what do you take away from that year?
Really just, how do you face adversity? Stuff doesn't really go your way, how are you going to respond? Pretty much stuff like that. So.
And that's going to do it for this week's Speak of the Devils. I'd like to thank our guest, Cole Topham of DevilsDigest.com. Give him a follow at Ham Analysis. And make sure you stay with Speak of the Devils on the social media side. It's going to be a very active next couple of weeks. Spring ball is going to be hitting its stride over as we near April 15th's spring game, as well as, of course, baseball, hopefully continuing their momentum heading into the heart of conference play. You can follow the show on Twitter at SOTD Podcast, on Instagram at Speak of the Devils, on Facebook at facebook.com/SOTD Podcast, and give me a follow on Twitter and Instagram at BDenny29.
And you can follow me at Joe Healy 42. A huge shout out and thank you to our sponsors. Of course, DeFalco's Deli, Cactus Sports, DevilsDigest.com, Jones Auto Group, Spaghetti Shack, and Sun Devil Family Charities.
And once you're done supporting all of them, make sure to drop us a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice. We're nearing 200 reviews on Apple Podcasts. It'd be cool to get to that benchmark here pretty soon. And make sure you are subscribed, because Joe and I will be back next week as we recap Week 3 of Spring Ball.